Milwaukee Bucks are teaming up for Veterans Day debt relief. And we will talk to people about that during the 6 o'clock hour. Because the 5 o'clock hour is the Packers. And for all those idiots who don't think the Packers can lose to the Bears, it has moved dramatically. The Packers, when we talked on Friday, were a 3.5-point favorite. And they are now a 6.5-point favorite. In the game in Chicago, which is rare when you're the visitor. But someone can check for all the games in which the Packers have lost when they were bigger than a 6.5-point favorite on the road. In addition, everybody knows that the history of division games in the NFL creates far more upsets than a regular game. So, should the Packers win? Yes. Could they lose the game easily based on the history of the NFL and based on the amount? The Bears were horrible offensively yesterday, but there's a reason they've won 4 games. I don't know what those reasons are, Bryan Bulaga. But anybody who thinks the Bears can't win is an idiot and knows nothing about the history of the NFL. The Packers are a favorite, yes. But weird things in the division happen. Now, I will let Bryan Bulaga, but now I've calmed down and I feel better. So, Bryan, good evening.
Good evening. I'm glad you feel better. But I'm with you. I am with you. For anyone to think that the Bears can't win this game, you got to rethink it because they can. They can win this football game. So, don't go into this thinking that this thing's already over. The Bears are playing like crap. They're no good. Yeah, they played bad last week, and to see NFL teams play that bad back-to-back weeks doesn't really happen too often, especially with a division opponent coming in next. So I expect the Bears to play a much cleaner, much better game, and 6 points is generous. That's a generous number on the road in a division game. So do I think Green Bay should win? Absolutely I do. I absolutely think they should. But I don't think it's a absolute given that they're going to. I'll just say that.
Well, I did make, and you can look on Twitter, that I said that I thought the easiest bet, maybe in the history of humanity, can't remember the exact word, someone can look it up, was Philadelphia against the Cowboys. Because I think the Cowboys are horrible. And it was only like 7 points like that. And the Cowboys are horrible. Plus, they were missing their quarterback, who is certainly one of the top 2 or 3 players on the team. And I nailed it perfectly. Philadelphia crushed them. It's possible that the Bears could be in the same. But the Bears, the reason I said that is Dallas doesn't have anything good anywhere. Their defense stinks. The Bears, on the other hand, have a good defense, a defense that could win a game if they would create enough turnovers. So while I said that was the easiest pick in the history of the world, if it was still at 3 points, I would say it's a good pick for the Packers as well. But 6.5 is it's a lot. Anyway, I wanted to discuss you about all the division games and the rivals. And we have this discussion of rivals, but I'm wondering what it's really like when you were a player. And I think the rivalry of each player depends entirely on the quality of the team that rival is. Like the rivalry now with the Lions is huge. And for years, I assume when you played, you just assumed you were going to beat the Lions twice. You're not taking it for granted, but you're just going to win because you always won. You won. You were part of that streak probably of 24 wins in a row in the state of Wisconsin. I'm not sure you ever lost to Detroit in Wisconsin, right? I bet you didn't.
No, I did. The year McCarthy got fired in 2018, we lost at home. That was probably the streak breaker right there. That was that was the end of the line. So, but yeah, I mean, it's we always looked at it, or at least I always did, because of me growing up in the Chicagoland area. And when I got into the league, the Bears were good. I mean, they were a good football team. I mean, they had a lot of stud players. They obviously went to the NFC Championship, and that's who we played to go to the Super Bowl. And there was a lot there was a lot of intensity and a lot of, bad blood in that game. The two sides did not like each other, and you feed off of that from the crowd, home and away, right? Like you take that negative energy or that positive energy.
All right. Well, wait. Let's start. You're now on the Packers. You're on the team.
Yep.
You've never played the Bears before. The week before the Bears game, I don't know if you remember this. You're pretty young. You have pretty good memory. The week before the game, you show up on like Monday's your first day, right? It's kind of short. You have a little. So the Monday of your first Bears game ever. I don't know if it was in Green Bay or that was in Chicago. It's the first day. You have all this life because of where you grew up in Illinois. So did anybody, the coach, did they talk about it the first day in terms of the importance of the rivalry or what it was? Because this is what's important to me, not what the fans think.
Yeah, I mean, they bring up the rivalry and kind of go through the history a little bit, where the teams stand, but what's most important is that it's a division game, right? And what's happened recently and where Chicago is right now as a team. And we played them week 1 that year. That was a week 1 game, I believe. We went to Chicago. No, week 2. We went to Chicago. I think it was week 2. My rookie year, we went to Chicago. We lost by a field goal or something like that. And I remember going out there. I mean, it was a lot different when I went out there the second time that year for the NFC Championship and I was starting. I remember walking down the sideline for that NFC Championship game, and I think I got called a traitor and a couple other choice words about 100 to 200 times that entire warm-up session. And it was all right.
I want to be Bryan Bulaga. I want to be Bryan Bulaga. All right. I'm imagining I'm you in that situation. I'm walking, I'm hearing that, and I'm thinking, you people don't get it. Like, say whatever you want. We're the better team. We're on fire. That was the week after you beat Atlanta, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're not – I mean, if I was in your shoes, I'd go, oh, man, this is awesome.
I loved it.
All these people are idiots. They're going to get their butts kicked, and it's going to be a tough game, but we ain't losing to them now. So is that what's going through your head or not?
Oh, yeah. I was loving it. I thought it was great. Like, I really enjoyed it. And, like, every time I went to Chicago, it was the exact same thing, right? Like, it was the exact same thing. It almost probably could have been the same exact fans that were saying the same exact thing because we always warmed up in the same side of the end zone in the same exact spot. So it could have been the same exact couple guys that would be screaming at me. But it was – I always
see, and I don't see you responding. I would have responded like, you never win this game. Like, I mean, you don't know, what about that don't you get? Then they could say whatever they want, but I don't see you doing that. I don't see you. I'll bet in all those years you never responded once to a fan in Chicago. Am I right or not?
Yeah, I think a couple times I'd turn around and give a thumbs up or something like that, like thank you. I appreciate it. But never an Aaron Rodgers moment where he said, I own you. I never had one of those.
Yeah. That is
fun.
Historic.
Yeah, it was always fun.
Yeah, it's fun because
right? Like,
you won so many of them.
Yes, exactly. Well, that makes it better.
Is it? Yeah, I mean, I'm just assuming like it's not fun when you lose. You get. I mean, as you said it, and I can see this with the coaches, and that makes sense. Division games are huge.
Yeah, they're the biggest, right? I mean, they're like, and you and I talked about this on Thursday. It can literally get you, like, the division's so important. It can get you a top 4 seed. Like, it is the most important thing to try to win because it automatically gets you in a great position in the playoffs. Like, and that's kind of where Green Bay's at with the Lions right now. And no matter what what we think about the Lions, Green Bay's trying to keep pace. And as long as they continue to win and keep pace, they'll be putting themselves in a good situation. But, I mean, you play all those teams twice. I mean, it's the most important games. You could set yourself up really nice in the season, overall record, if you take care of business in the division. And that's, for us, at least when I was there with McCarthy, when McCarthy was there, then LaFleur's first year, it was all about those 6 games. It was all about trying to win those 6 games and take care of the division. And that was a big emphasis every year.
So, in essence, as a player, the rivalries are all about equal because they're all division games, but it becomes bigger when it's more difficult, or I don't know if bigger is the right word. It becomes more important based on where that team is in the division.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, you remember, I mean, it kind of went, I mean, I guess in my time there, like, right, it was the Bears that were equal with us, then Minnesota had a jump.
And the Vikings.
Then the Vikings had a jump, and that was a very contested, heated, kind of back and forth few years with those guys, and then finally, I feel like we kind of overtook them again, and now it's the Lions' turn to do it. So, it all depends. Like, they're all big games, but yes, there is a little extra added oomph to each game when there's another top team in the division. There's always that extra bit of juice to it because everyone knows in the division. I mean, I understand, kind of what we talked about with St. Brown saying what Packers fans think, and that's cool, and I understand that how he feels. But the reality is that, like, Green Bay has done so well in this division. Everyone's trying to knock Green Bay off the hill, regardless if they won the division last year or not, right? Like, the expectation every season is Green Bay's done it for so long that they're going to be in the hunt for it again, that I guarantee you Detroit went into the season going, we got to beat Green Bay to win the division. It's not Minnesota. It's not Chicago. We got to take care of Green Bay to win the division, and that's how it's going to play out. So it's not that, you look at each game as the same or that they're not the same because they're all important. But, hey, man, when you have a team like the Lions that's playing well or a team like when I was there, Minnesota, those games carry a little extra weight. They always did.
And I would emphasize, again, you play them twice. And no one's going to say this, but the numbers would tell you that they have decreased the importance of division games because they're a smaller percentage. You're now playing 17 games and you're playing 6 division games. It used to be 8 of 16 when you had when Tampa Bay was in the division with the Packers. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look how many years. But then, you're playing half your games against division teams. That's half your season. Now they're getting close to a third, and I can tell you this. We both know, Brian, it's going to be 6 of 18 sometime soon. Now you're down to a third of your games. 2/3 of your games are outside the division. Well, anybody can say whatever they want. That decreases the importance or makes those 6 games even more important because, like you say, you want a division. But now with more teams in the playoffs, So you could say that the division games themselves have even been more important, but it's now only 6 of 18 instead of 8 of 16. So I'll let you figure that out.
No, you're right. I mean, that is the unfortunate part with adding more games is that, like, it does kind of minimize that, right? Because when you had the 16 games, right, and you played those 6 games against the division opponents, like, those were huge. Like, you could win – if you could win 6 games out of those 16 or 5 games out of those 16 in the division, that's a big step right there, right? Like, that's halfway to 10 wins. Like, you're in really good shape if you take care of the division. And now it's like starting to minimize the importance of those games. And when you play those teams twice, man, the common opponent factor makes them so tough, right? After you play that team the first time, playing them the second time is so difficult because the guy remembers you, you remember him. The individual matchups become such a chess game because you remember what happened in the first matchup. What did he do to beat you? What you did to beat him? How is he going to counter it? And then you look at the bigger picture. What did you do to beat them defensively? What worked against you? And are they going to try to do that again? If they try to do that again, do we have an answer for it? Like, it was always very fascinating going into the second game of the division opponents. Like, and that's what, I mean, you looked at it last year, right? When Detroit came into Green Bay, blew them out, and then Green Bay went into Detroit and blew them out. Like, you see the adjustments that happen in the second games. They always happen. And then LaFleur is really good at it. LaFleur is really good at making adjustments in going into these second games and changing game plans up. So it is always
all right,
really
we got to take a break, and then we are going to get to those adjustments because it also appears that he adjusts. What is it? Now this year it seems they're doing really well, or we're adjusting defensively. So Bryan Bulaga, and then we Rob Demovsky's coming up a little bit. Bryan Bulaga on those adjustments of Matt LaFleur. Next.
More of the Homer Hour coming up next on 94.5 ESPN.
We've got some backups along westbound 94, starting at around 16th Street all the way to about Hawley Road. Eastbound side slowing down just east of 76th Street all the way to 27th. Southbound 43, a little tight heading into the Capitol Drive area from just south of Hampton, and then back on the brakes from Fond du Lac Avenue down through the Marquette and over the high-rise. Southbound 41, watch for backups from before Silver Spring all the way down past Capitol Drive. More delays from Greenfield Avenue down towards Lincoln on 894 southbound. And checking the TMJ4 Storm Team forecast. Tonight, mostly clear skies, a low of 36 at the lake, 28 inland. Tomorrow, mostly sunny to partly cloudy, a high of 49. From the WTMJ Traffic Center, I'm Debbie Lazaga on 94.5 ESPN.
On this show, it's always football season.
And
That's
your
what he
argument was that the coaches wanted him to return it.
Yeah, I think-
and he very clearly said no.
They wanted him to take it to the house.
Wilde and Tausch, presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Also sponsored by American Family Insurance.
Play the results, are we?
That's what coaches do sometimes, yeah.
Weekdays from 9 to noon on 94.5 ESPN, the Wisconsin On Demand app, and at ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Are you looking for reliable transportation this holiday season? I've got you covered. It's Jen Latta from ESPN Milwaukee, and with holiday parties, family gatherings, and year-end events on the horizon, I trust AccuTrans Group to handle all of my private transportation needs. Whether it's a corporate function or festive celebration, AccuTrans gets me there safely and on time. As a veteran-owned business, they pride themselves on top-notch service that you can count on. Booking is easy, stress-free, and reliable. Just visit AccuTransGroup.com to reserve your holiday ride today. That's AccuTransGroup.com.
This political season, you'll hear a lot of noise. But this November, Walker Media Agency has the expertise and team to improve your marketing, advertising, and IT. Start at WMA2024.com. Paid for by Matt Walker and Walker Media Agency.
Dr. Aaron Holtebeck and his team at Holtebeck Eye Center make vision care a top priority with the latest technologies at their state-of-the-art Brookfield office. Dr. Holtebeck has been helping local patients with their eye care needs for over 20 years. And now, Holtebeck Eye Center is excited to add Dr. Nausheen Abbas to their team. Dr. Abbas is an ophthalmologist and cornea specialist that is now available to see patients. Located in Brookfield near the corner of Calhoun and Capitol, learn more about their services at holtebeck.com.
The only thing that tops our selection is your savings discount liquor.
Did you know Love was born November 2nd? Did you know Love was raised in Bakersfield, California? Did you know Love played college football at Utah State? Are you looking for lots of Love touchdowns the rest of this football season? Hi, this is Marie from Discount Liquor, where we love being your one-stop shop for everything alcohol-related. With our selection of over 15,000 varieties of beer, wine, liquor, and mixers, all at the lowest prices in town, Discount Liquor has all your tailgating needs covered. We are your football party beverage headquarters. Discount Liquor, 2 locations, Milwaukee on 51st in Oklahoma, and in downtown Waukesha on Barstow and Maine.
The only thing that tops our selection is your savings discount liquor.
See all of our weekly specials at discountliquorinc.com.
When you've been seriously injured, you need a trusted team on your side. Gruber Law Offices is available 24/7 and will even come to you. Your first call is free. Your first visit is free. Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all.
This is the Homer Hour on 94.5 ESPN.
Football on the adjustments of LaFleur. This year during the NBA's in-season tournament, ESPN Milwaukee is putting Bucks tickets on the line. All week long, tune in to ESPN Milwaukee and be entered into our Emirates NBA Cup Bracket Challenge. Right now, caller number 7, caller 7, 1-800-990-3776 to the ESPN Milwaukee talk and text line. You get the pick at a team in one of the NBA's bracket groupings. For our show, we are Group B. Group B, as in boy. Follow that team throughout the in-season tournament, and if your team wins, you win $2 tickets. And if your team doesn't win, you can still secure your seats to see unforgettable moments at bucks.com/tickets. Call the ESPN Milwaukee Talk and Text line now. Caller 7-1-800-990-3776. Now, with the Doctor of Football, I want to hear all the greatness of Coach LaFleur at halftime of games when he was playing, because he's certainly mentioned as a coach who's very good at that. Doc, is that true?
Yeah, I think he's very good at halftime adjustments. And listen, there's no magic wand that coaches wave at halftime that, fixes everything. There's no such thing as that, right? And you can only install so many things throughout the week, and you got a game plan, and there's some things that maybe you haven't practiced that the guys, especially if you got a veteran group or a good group, that you can go out there and do without practicing, and the guys can make adjustments. But there's no special potion. It's play calling and making adjustments to what the defense is doing and understanding what the defense is doing. And I always thought Coach LaFleur was so good at coming out of the half with almost especially offensively, almost like a brand new first 15. Like it's almost like he had a new script in his head coming out of the half that he wanted to go with based on what the defense was giving him. That's if we were having issues in the first half coming out of halftime. And he was able to make those adjustments really well. And it's not like, oh, well, you couldn't run the ball, so now you pass it. No, it's changing up. If the outside zone wasn't working, do we start doing more inside zone and showing, split zone look to it or jet motion sweeps to it and we hit downhill quick? Or do we go duo, or do we go power? And we figure out a different scheme to attack the defense that we weren't having much success with, maybe in a different outside zone or something, just something different than in the past concepts. That was a lot like, are we getting zone? Are we getting man? Or, 2 high, 1 high, cover 3? That's all things that he and Aaron would make adjustments in at halftime. That's not my pay grade of what he would do, but they made those adjustments, and they normally always worked. And that was something that I always found. I always felt really good coming out of half that he would have a plan, and he normally did. And that's something that, you look at, we'll just go from, like I was talking about earlier, division game 1 to division game 2. I mean, you look at that Detroit game last year, first play out the gate, a bomb to Watson down the middle of the field. Didn't see that at all in the first game. So completely right out of the gate makes a huge adjustment. And that's the kind of things that he does, from not just from, half to half, but from game to game, giving teams different looks so they just can't sit on one thing and be predictable.
So at halftime, after a few games with LaFleur, did you know what can have? All right, we're going to be doing something different. He's always got something new. Whatever we thought we were going to do, it's always going to be not. You're not making that good or bad. You're saying that's kind of who he is. So, I always again wonder if I was Bryan Bulaga, I'd walk in and go, wonder what he's got us for us this second half. Unless, as you alluded to, if things went amazingly well, I don't know. But after a while, it sounds like you just knew he was going to come up with something different.
Yeah,
is that true or not?
Again, you kind of said it. If things are going all right, he's not changing a whole bunch. Yeah, there's going to be small wrinkles within it and maybe a couple different looks, but you're not going to fix something that's not broken. So, he normally would stick with the plan, show some different wrinkles with things and go from there. But if there was something that just wasn't working and you are just stalled out on offense, yeah, he's going to come up with something creative to start out the second half with to try to jumpstart the offense and see if that's a scheme or a plan that will throw the defense off on what looks they're giving. The only time I can remember it being like, okay, there's really nothing we're going to do here that's going to work was that NFC Championship game against San Francisco, where they kind of got after us a little bit and they ran the ball for who knows how many yards in that game, and we got run out the building in 2019. Besides that, because when you're down that fast, you're going to have to throw the ball, and throwing the ball against that type of defense and pass rush, it's going to become predictable. It's hard to do anything at that point. But that was about the only game. I remember a game that year in 2019 in New York against the Giants. It was a snowy game. It was tough. The Giants were a decent team, but not great. But the conditions were bad. And we tried to go into the game like, hey, we're gonna pound the rock and we're gonna try to play this a certain way. And it was a close game at half. And we came out in the second half and we threw it way more and pushed the ball downfield a little bit, and it opened him up and it worked. So he's very good at, changing things up, making adjustments, and putting guys in the best positions to win.
Talking with the Doctor of Football, Bryan Bulaga. Rob Demovsky will be on in a little bit. Again, I'm at the Gather in the Dare District. Veterans Day Debt Relief. Yep, Verizon Wireless and the Milwaukee Bucks are teaming up for Veterans Day Debt Relief. We'll get more information on that at 6, going extra between 6 until 7. Marquette basketball is tonight at 8 against Central Michigan. You played for other coaches. How was Mike McCarthy the same or different at halftime than LaFleur?
They were a little bit different. I mean, I think from an adjustment standpoint, I think Matt did a little bit more. Mike was a little bit more old school, like, hey, we're sticking to our guns and we're going to push through this. And yeah, we're going to do a couple things different, but we need to execute better. While that is the truth for a lot of things, some things aren't working because we're not executing as well as we should. There are times that the defense has schemed you up well, and what you're doing is just you're beating your head up against the wall and it's not working. So that's how the two differed to me at points throughout my career, or at least my time with Mike and then my 1 year with Matt, was sometimes hey, the defense schemed it up right and we got to make a change. And Mike sometimes would just say, hey, you guys got to execute better. We need to run the football, or we need to make this work. You guys got to make this work up front, figure it out. You guys got to go. And hey, we had the horses to do it. It was just, sometimes it was more difficult than others. And that's just the way it went. But listen, those two guys' styles were completely different. How they managed the team was completely different. It's hard to compare the two because the styles were different. The offenses were different. And obviously the players at each guy's disposal were different for the most part. So besides Aaron Rodgers, the common denominator for most of it, right? And you saw success with both.
When you say manage the team, you've talked about changing. By manage the team, I'm thinking that's not the areas that you were talking about. It was something different. Not so.
What do you mean managing?
You said the two of them managed the team differently, and I'm wondering.
Yeah, I'm talking about at halftime and stuff. How they would how they would address the team at halftime if things were going bad or going they had different styles to how they approached it, right? You just look at their coaching styles in general. They're way different, completely different night and day. And that's what I meant. I manage. Maybe I looked at it or said it the wrong way, but I didn't mean anything by that.
I don't think you did. I was just asking because anytime you can give us anything that we're not, I don't want to say supposed to know, or that there would be no way of knowing about a coach and players and stuff like that, I'm gonna try to get into that room. All right, Rob Demovsky is next. I haven't forgotten. We're still going to talk about the offensive line so far this season, but Rob Demovsky next. This is the Bryan Bulaga, the Doctor of Football Homer Hour.
The Homer Hour is back after this on 94.5 ESPN.
Westbound 94, slowing down from 13th Street all the way to about Mitchell Boulevard. On the eastbound side, got some backups from 76th Street through to 35th. Southbound 43, heavy pocket from before Hampton all the way to Capitol, and then again from just south of North Avenue all the way down through the Marquette. And 41 southbound, slowing from Appleton Avenue down past Capitol Drive. Got a crash on the ramp from Burleigh to northbound 41 as well, so watch out for those delays. Traffic is brought to you by Land Rover Waukesha. Get 3.9 special APR financing for up to 48 months on a new 2024 Range Rover Sport at Land Rover Waukesha. Go to LandRoverWaukesha.com. And checking the TMJ4 Storm King forecast. Tonight, mostly clear, a low of 36 at the lake, 28 inland. Then tomorrow, mostly sunny to partly cloudy, a high of 49. Weather is brought to you by Wisconsin Indoor Golf Center in Waukesha. Always have a slice of summer by playing Pro Tour courses on one of their 12 simulators. Book a bay for just $35 Monday through Thursday. From the WTMJ Traffic Center, I'm Debbie Lazaga on 94.5 ESPN.
There's a good chance you're on a budget. We all are. But she wants a diamond. You know it, I know it. And Robert Hack Diamonds knows it too, because they offer a huge collection of lab-grown diamonds, and they sell them at crazy prices. How about 2-carat total weight diamond studs for free when you mention ESPN and purchase at $2,000 of in-stock jewelry? You'll receive a free pair of 2-carat total weight diamond studs. Robert Hack Diamonds can get any size, shape, or clarity in natural or lab-grown diamonds. Don't buy until you call Robert Hack Diamonds in Greenfield or in Brookfield. Why overspend when you can save at Robert Hack Diamonds for the same diamond you're looking for? Spend at least $2,000 on in-stock jewelry and you get 2-carat diamond studs free, as long as you mention ESPN. Your visit will be worth it, and she'll think so too. Robert Hack also offers repair services and cash for your old gold. Robert Hack Diamonds, RobertHackDiamonds.com, RobertHackDiamonds.com. Visit them in Brookfield or in Greenfield.
Join the roar of 18,000 Bucks fans at Fiserv Forum and be a part of the slam dunks, game-changing plays, and electrifying victories live. Witness the edge-of-your-seat action and unforgettable moments as they happen. You don't want to miss this. Grab your calendar, handpick your favorite matchups, and secure your seats for Dame time in Milwaukee and every incredible moment that comes next at Bucks.com/tickets. That's Bucks.com/tickets.
Every so often in medicine, something comes along that is truly revolutionary.
Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, former orthopedic surgeon, now National Medical Director at QC Kinetics.
I believe this is one of those things.
Dr. Scheinkup is talking about regenerative medicine, something he's practiced, researched, and written about for nearly 2 decades.
The old ways of dealing with joint pain, such as steroids and surgery, are no longer the best ways.
If you have pain from arthritis or injury, you owe it to yourself to learn more about this exciting option, using your own body's natural power to get lasting relief. And there's no better place to learn than QC Kinetics.
There is no one in this country today with more clinics, more satisfied patients, more advanced protocols, or more experience in using this exciting option to deliver life-changing results.
Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. 414-285-3474.
It takes a team to meet just about any goal, and that's as true on the football field as it is in the office. So it's good to know that you have the Gordon Flesch Company on your side. For more than 60 years, GFC has provided cutting-edge office technology for companies of all sizes, and as the nation's largest Canon dealer, GFC delivers the latest office technology, serviced, and is supported by the most experienced professionals in the industry. That's business technology managed. Visit gflesh.com to learn more.
You're listening to the Homer Hour on 94.5 ESPN.
It's the Bryan Bulaga Homer Hour, the doctor of football, and the best segment on Monday when he's on with Rob Demovsky of ESPN and everything else he is. I don't know if we have Rob Demovsky Enterprises like we have Jason Wilde Enterprises, where he's like on everything all around the world. We'll have to, the doctor of football, Bryan Bulaga, will have to take care of that because I do nothing in this segment and am proud of it. Doc, take it away.
Rob, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, Brian. How are you?
I'm good. Did you have a good bye week? Do anything fun?
I actually had a quick trip down your way, not quite your way, just to see my folks in Naples for just a couple days. It was a quick one, down and back for about 2 days. So that's about it.
Good. Well, I don't know. I mean, Did the guys practice today? Were they at the facility? Did they?
Yeah.
Okay, so they had a workout today?
Yeah, so they had a light practice today, which we, for whatever reason, didn't get to see any of, which is fine. But I always thought those bonus practices or whatever after, whether it was after a bye or sort of an unusual schedule, I always thought those were pretty light and loose, and I think got the guys kind of in good spirits. I would say this: we had locker room access today, and it seemed like a pretty jovial locker room. You could tell that they were refreshed and at least the ones that were in there. There was just a good vibe. I can't put any there was nothing I could say that this person said this or that. There was a good vibe in the locker room. I spent a lot of time talking to Josh Jacobs, just sort of about his first half and what he accomplished, and the conversation turned a little bit toward Marshawn Lloyd, who is going to be coming off the IR, not necessarily off IR, but he's going to be designated to return to practice this week. And I thought it was really interesting that Josh Jacobs said he had Marshawn Lloyd ride down to practice with him every day while he's been on IR, just to keep him focused and just engaged, because it's hard when a rookie comes in and is basically hurt from the get-go and doesn't play. And the other topic of conversation, obviously, this is the first time, Brian, we've talked to the players since Preston Smith was traded. And there were a lot of, Rashawn Gary in particular was very close to Preston. But, those were, I would say, the two big things that came out of today.
Yeah. What is there any news on Josh Myers and how he is? Do they expect him to be ready to go this week, or is this a longer-term injury?
Yeah, Josh actually talked today, and he said it's getting better, but he wasn't quite, he wasn't pronouncing himself for sure back. I think he wants to try to see if he can practice, when they actually do real stuff on Wednesday. I thought that was and is maybe an underrated aspect of where they're at here. Not that Elton can't play center, because he's obviously very good at it. But when an offense, as you know, is used to having one guy in there making all the calls, it's a big adjustment. And then of course, we saw some of the issues with the snaps that may have had something to do with the weather too in the last game. But Josh Myers to me has been a little bit of an unsung hero on this team. He probably got the most publicity for puking on the football a few weeks ago, but he's really become just, I think, a really steadying force on that line.
Yeah, I think he's played well this year, and that's what I've been telling Jason and Tausch that yeah. I thought he's been playing really well this year, and I'm not saying that Elton can't play center, because I think he can do it. I think Elton can do it at a high level, but I mean, you hit the nail on the head. When you have to make him move a guy like that in those weather conditions against the Lions, that's a tough deal, man. And now you're hearing the calls from a different guy.
Right.
There's more to it than just that. I mean, did you get to speak with LaFleur today or no?
No, we didn't talk to him. We haven't talked to him since last Monday, actually. But the one thing that I always wonder about offensive line injuries and shuffling is, they always like to say you want your best five out there, which I totally get. But when you move a guy like Elton from left guard to center, not only is he playing a new position, but now you've got to fill his spot. I wondered if they would just, we're just going to throw Jacob Monk in there, who I thought had a really good preseason and good training camp at the center spot. And maybe they just didn't want to do that in those conditions. He hasn't really played at all. That'd be a tough spot. But to me, are you better off putting a backup in who that's his primary position, or are you better off, moving a guy and then having to fill that, basically moving two guys to fill one spot? I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong answer. It's probably circumstantial, but I'm never sure which is the right way to do it.
Yeah, and I guess my question, Rob, too, was they moved Jordan Morgan to left guard when he's only been playing right guard. And that was the move to me. I mean, was there anything said about that? Why that move was made, and why didn't he stay at right guard and you moved Sean Ryan, who's a little more experienced? Or
that's actually a great question that I think we'll ask Steno when we talk to him later in the week on Thursday. But that's another great point about the offensive line is you're moving. There's so many moving pieces, and when you're playing a really good football team, the margin of error is so small that, any little thing. I'm sure they have their reasons, and I'm sure they thought it out, but, it was definitely a factor, I think.
Yeah. So what, going into this with obviously Preston Smith leaving, what are you thinking that this starting D-line, who's going to be the opposite DN starting, do you think? Or what is this thing going to look like?
Yeah. If it were me, I would probably go with Kingsley Enagbare. And then still have Lucas Van Ness come in, as the third guy. My guess is they'll probably use Van Ness. I mean, look, it's time that they probably see what he can do in a full-time role. I mean, the guy was a first-round pick for a reason. But I think right now, Enigbare might be a more dangerous and disruptive player, just because he's got a little more experience. I think he's got, maybe he doesn't have the wide array of skill sets that Lucas has, but he does one thing really well, and that's beat guys off the edge. So I think you're obviously going to see increased playing time from both those guys. Aaron Mosby, who we saw a little glimpse of, got a half a sack last week. And then Brenton Cox was an undrafted free agent, not this year but last year, and has been on this team for basically a year and a half without really playing. It's time to see if he can do anything. He's been inactive for most of his time. He's going to get a shot now too. But I don't know that you can just say, all right, we're going to put these guys in there and our pass rush is going to get better. I still think one of the biggest strengths of Jeff Hafley and what he's done the best is blitz and rush guys from different areas. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, that they don't necessarily send more than 4 rushers, but they send rushers from different places. And that's like, whether you call that a blitz or not, it's still 4-man rush. And I think he's going to have to do even more of that in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Rob, I have one quick question here.
Okay.
I mean, I assume Brenton Cox doesn't play because he's no good, or he hasn't shown enough. What are his strengths, or what's kept him around for a year and a half? I don't know. How often do guys stick around for a year and a half and never play? I don't know what the timetable is.
You'd be amazed, Homer. There's some guys that have been, 51, 52, 53 on the roster that have been around and have stayed a couple of years. I mean, Caleb Jones was a recent example of that. I think this was the 3rd training camp he had been to, and was on the team for a good part of it and never played. And now he ended up getting released, earlier this year. But Brenton Cox is a raw pass rusher, really athletic, really, really strong, but, doesn't have a lot of experience. And I'm sure what they do, Homer, is that, they're trying to develop those guys in practice, because that's what you do with the bottom part of the roster is if even those guys aren't going to play, you try to get them. They have potential, they have ability. You try to work with them in practice, and maybe they saw something in practice that says, all right, we can afford to get rid of Preston, and we'll give this guy a crack and see what he can do. It's not just like the guy's been sitting around for a year and a half, and he's just sitting there waiting to play. I'm sure the coaches have been working with him on specific things, and maybe they feel like that now's the time that he can do it. But it's a great question and a good point. No, it's a good point. Is why do you expect a guy that's been here a year and a half and never played to all of a sudden be able to do anything? It's a great question.
No, I mean it's a good question. I mean, I believe because normally, I mean, Rob, you explained it well, but at the same time, normally guys that can show that they can play and contribute and play at a high level, even if they say start at the bottom of the roster, normally make their way up to the top of it. Not the top of it, but in a starting
in a rotation.
In a rotation within a decent time. So this will be interesting to see how he does. At this point, I think we can all agree that I think we want to see everything, because there hasn't been a whole bunch of production. So
and
I think
I also think, Brian, it's time that Rashawn Gary ends up, starts playing like he has at times in the past. I mean, I hate to judge players on a paycheck or where they're drafted, because I always use A.J. Hawk as an example. If A.J. Hawk was the 28th pick or the 35th pick in the draft, you'd have thought he'd had a great career. But because he was the 5th or whatever pick in the draft, people hold him to, a different standard. So I am very cognizant of that. But, they paid Rashawn Gary a lot of money. And, it's time that, that he starts stepping it up a little bit. I don't know why he hasn't been as good this year. That's beyond my X's and O's expertise. But the bottom line is the production hasn't been there. And, it's time for him to step it up. And that's, I'm sure, what, his position coaches and the defensive coaches are trying to figure out how to do, is put him in better positions.
So, Rob, before, I don't know how much time we got left, but, we got 9 through.
We have no time left for Homer, but we have time for one more question from the doctor of football.
I just want to ask, what do you – and I know this is a long shot. Maybe you don't answer these questions. What do you think the Packers end, now that we're at the halfway mark, regular season record, how many more wins do you think they get? What do you think they finish out at this regular season?
Yeah, the second half of the schedule earlier in the year looked like really tough, but and I'm not saying San Francisco isn't good, but they're maybe not as dominant as they were. Miami's got all sorts of trouble. Seattle and New Orleans, maybe aren't as good as you thought. So I do think it's a little easier. In fact, their strength of schedule of their opponent's record is, I think, easiest of the teams in the NFC North. Like, they have the easiest schedule by opponent record. I think they win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 more games, which that would put them at 11 or 12 wins.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I think everyone would sign up for that.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be good enough to win the division, but it'd definitely be good enough for a playoff spot.
All right, I need to stick in one last question. Anybody from the Bears get fired today? And if people in the NFL told you how horrible their offense is, or it's the quarterback, or it's the coordinator.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's gotten fired. I do think it sounded like they might change play callers. I don't think they're throwing the quarterback necessarily under the bus yet. But I do think that the Matt Eberflus, his hold on this job is he's losing grip on it. And if they don't turn this thing around pretty fast, there's going to be a new coach in Chicago next year, from what it sounds like.
Rap, thanks for the time.
All right,
Rob Demovsky, again, ESPN.com and all the other million things he does with Rob Demovsky Enterprises. Back to the doc, Bryan Bulaga, and the offensive line. Next.
More of the Homer Hour coming up next on 94.5 ESPN. Whether it's live or in podcast form, you've heard us on air with all of our shenanigans.
Gabe, I'm throwing some. Why are you throwing? I don't want.
Now see your favorite 94.5 ESPN show streaming on video.
Named by me, by the way. I hit that microphone like 4 out of 6 times on that.
Subscribe to ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube and get notified when we hit the air live. Plus, you can watch back any second that you miss and see original digital content too. Watch, listen, interact. ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Looking for a totally rad flavor adventure, brochachos? Look no further than Surfer Boy Pizza, as seen in Stranger Things. Each mouth-watering variety contains rich tomato sauce, delicious mozzarella cheese, and a gnarly range of toppings. The crust is crispy on the outside and airy on the inside. You'll think it was hand-tossed by the Surfer Boy Pizza dudes themselves. Look for it in the freezer aisle at your local store and buckle up your taste buds with Surfer Boy Pizza.
The only thing that tops our selection is your savings discount liquor.
Love, Dobbs, Watson, Reed, and now Josh Jacobs? Football season is back, baby. Now's the time to set a game plan for your Green Bay and Wisconsin pigskin parties. This is Marie from Discount Liquor. We are your football party beverage headquarters. Whether you need an ice-cold keg, a bottle of your favorite wine, a unique craft brew, or hard-to-find liquor, we have everything you need, all at the lowest prices in town. Come see us today at 51st in Oklahoma and Milwaukee, and on Barstow and Maine in downtown Waukesha. Voted best liquor store again.
The only thing that tops our selection is your savings.
Wherever you're tailgating, we'll get you all set up with your favorite beverages. We're open daily 9 to 9 and Sundays 10 to 2. See all of our weekly specials at DiscountLiquorInc.com.
Discount Liquor.
An ESPN Radio Extra Point with Evan Cohen, Chris Canty, and Michelle Smallman.
Mike Tomlin, yet again, pulling this off. Is he coach of the year? After this kind of win and this kind of start, 7-2 on the year, is he coach of the year?
He's in the conversation. I think Jonathan Gannon from the Arizona Cardinals will have something to say about it, especially if they win the NFC West, because nobody had that on the board. Let's remember, the Pittsburgh Steelers were a playoff team last year. Mm-hmm. We didn't know what their quarterback situation would look like in 2024, but we know it had to be better than 2023 when they had, Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph as the guys. But I don't think anybody in the NFL could have known that Russell Wilson will be this good. except for the guy that saw him every day in Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
And so I will give Coach Tomlin full credit for this renaissance that we're seeing with Russ's career.
With NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you can watch every game, every Sunday, all in one place. Which means you can watch the Dolphins, and the Broncos, and the Lions, and the Cowboys, and the Jets. Or whoever you're rooting for, all in your living room. But not literally, of course. That would be dangerous. Watch every game, every Sunday with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV. Sign up at youtube.com/NFLST. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
The best mornings
In the morning light,
start with Wrangler.
pull on my jeans and I feel alright.
Jeans, jackets, and shirts that get your day started on the right foot.
I pull my blue jeans on. I pull my old blue jeans on.
Good mornings make for better days.
I pull my blue jeans on. I pull my old blue jeans on.
Wrangler, for the ride of life.
Welcome back to the Homer Hour on 94.5 ESPN.
Zacaniac Planning, a name synonymous with employee benefits and top-notch service and more. I left out they've been doing it well for over 50 years. Not anymore. How they've been doing it well for over 50 years. Great listeners will help you simplify confusing insurance decisions. Strong client relationships, attention to detail. Family owned for over those 50 years. Level funded health insurance experts. Ask them about that. And it all comes down to this. Small enough to handle your needs with special attention and large enough to have the clout to make it happy with the companies you'll deal with through them. Saganiac Planning. You can remember the phone number. Just remember 783-262-783. Roger Maris, 6161. Let's get to the doctor of football, Bryan Bulaga. All right, offensive line. Where do you want to start? Let's get the grades, or not necessarily grades. You don't have to give grades. You just have to give observations. Who's been the best offensive lineman this year? I think I have a pretty good idea, but I'll let you go.
Yeah, I think the best offensive lineman's been Zach Tom. I think he's played the best out of all the linemen. I think he's and you know, it's to me it's close between him and Elton. I mean, I think Elton getting moved to center, you know, it's tough, you know, situation was what it was, and you know, he had some mistakes there, but Zach Tom's been playing really good football, really solid, really reliable, has gotten better as the year's gone on, and I think, I mean, they're going to have to pay him at some point here very soon, and a lot of money,
and
too.
they will pay him. They're going to pay him, right?
Yes, 100%.
So what is he getting better? I don't watch it close enough. What when you say, because you always said this guy's good, and now more consistent, or what do you see to help us learn?
Yeah, I mean, I think his consistency and what he's doing play after play, like it continues, like every play looks the same, right? And that's how you know you're watching a really good tackle, when he makes pass rushers do the same thing all the time, right? And it looks like the same, like you rewind it and it looks like the play before it. And then you go back like, well, and then you keep rewinding it, and they all look the same. And that's because he's controlling and dictating the game to the defensive end in the run and the pass. And it's not easy to do. And that's what he's able to do, and that's why.
How do you do that? Like, they have plays and ways they want to. How do you do that?
Well, it's a guy that right now is very, very confident. Obviously, he's very skilled. We all know that. No one's taking that away from him. But it's a guy that understands angles. He understands his assignment. He's very good off the snap count, which is important. And he's playing with tons of confidence. And when you have all those things going, you don't feel like you can get beat. And that's how he's playing right now. And I mean, yes, everybody gets beat. Everybody gets beat. That's the NFL. But he is performing at such a high clip. It's very rare when he does. So, like, for me, he's the standout. And then, you know, we moved down, like, you know, I think Sean Ryan has had really good moments throughout the season, and you and I have talked about it. The rotation thing has been interesting, to say the least.
You still don't understand it, right? That's what I'm assuming. You still don't get it.
Yeah, I don't. But they want to get Jordan Morgan on the field, and okay, I get it, and that's where we're going. But to Sean, to his credit, he's been playing decent football. Like, he's gone out there and he's made the most out of his opportunity, and he's played hard. He's played physical. He's made mistakes. He's had negative plays. Like I've said, no one's perfect in this game. But you know what? I think he's played to a higher standard than he did last year, which is all you can ask for. So I think that's been a good thing. And then I said it with Rob, and Rob kind of alluded to it as well. I think Josh Myers is having a great year for what we saw from him last year to where he is this year. I think he is playing much better football. He looks like very confident.
Well, we know that on this show. You know how I know that? You don't mention him at all like you did last year.
Yeah.
In the same of like, he's got to work on this or work on that. Whatever you'd like to see, you're seeing more of it from him, correct?
100%. And like, I like to think of myself as a pretty straight shooter when it comes to O-line play. If there's something going on, I'll say it. If there's not, you got to give the guys credit, right? Like he's done what he's needed to do from a preparation standpoint, everything like that up to this point. And see, I get he was hurt the last game. But overall, he's played pretty solid ball. Again, guys make mistakes. Guys get beat. Things happen in an NFL game. Like I like people could say, well, he hasn't been that good. He got beat on this. Okay. Yes, everyone gets beat. I understand that. But
all right, Rasheed Walker, because music says we're running out of time. There seem to be penalties or what? What's he doing? How's he doing?
Yeah, so he struggled early on in the season, kind of like everyone saw with penalties and kind of getting beaten. I think he's settled down a little bit. Has gotten more consistent as the year has gone on. You don't see as many mistakes as the game's going. So I think second half of the season, we're going to continue to see better play from him. And then Elton, I think at left guard is steady. He's a rock. He's a really, really good football player. No concerns with Elton at all.
Yeah, the Doctor of Football. We have a special second hour, and we'll be here in the Gather in the Deer District. Veterans Day Debt Relief. That's coming up next. You go to WisconsinOnDemand.com. You should always listen to Bryan Bulaga twice, like he watches the Packer game twice, live and then on tape. Do the same with his stuff. Back for a special second hour next.
We do have a couple of problems out on the road. An accident on the ramp from 60th Street to 894 eastbound.